that deciding what scale looks like for you and how you grow things becomes really critical. And then, again, like this to me is like one of the dark sides of the internet, is that once you start doing some research on it now, and maybe this will start to shift if you're using AI to do it, but now you're getting bombarded. I see it with my 11-year-old who wants to figure out how to start generating some cash where he's not. I'm not going to be cliche and be like, he's not trading time for money. We all trade time for money. He just wants to do it he just wants to figure out bigger levers to pull. But when I look at the stuff that he's seeing, which is like the 11-year-old version, the same stuff that you and I see, right? So like, I think this is kind of interesting. Maybe I want to take this approach, or it was curious. I'm sure you do the same thing. I see somebody running an ad or something, and I'm like, that hit me differently. And it's not just a copy, it's how I'm feeling through this process. I want to go through it. Next thing I know, like, my entire feed is filled with shit that's trying to be pitched at me. And, there is front of mine where I know that these things, I know what's happening. I know why I'm seeing all the stuff, and I'm getting just bombarded by the stuff because it's the algorithm doing what the algorithm does. Bought ads for years. Like, I get it. I benefited from that. But I do believe, even after doing this for like 2.5 decades, that as dialed in as you may think you are, and as self-aware as you may think you are, that stuff now is running in the back of your head, and you're like, are you doing it right?
All the time.
All the time. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and it can distract you from the things that you need to be doing to scale in a way that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I'm realizing now that I spend so much time online for business, right? Is like just how much it gets into your brain. Like, you see all these people and they're always talking and they're always, preaching how they did it and how they grew, and they grow so fast and they do all this, and it's like you're in a rat race. The other thing is, like, you think that because your world, your echo chamber of people online are all talking about AI and they're all talking about, business growth, etc., you think that you're behind, and you think that everybody else is already ahead of you and everybody else is doing it, because you can't see how big the pool is of people that are not doing it or don't understand it. And that is something I've had to remind myself of a lot. Like, I'll talk to people, I'll have clients that come to me and they'll be like, I don't understand anything about LinkedIn. And I'm like, how's that possible? Right? Like, because everybody in my ecosystem understands personal branding and they understand business development and the value of a personal brand.
Your echo chamber and two things, right? Number one, not realize like where you are on the broader continuum, which may or may not matter, right?
Right.
Because that's just a variation of, like, comparison is the thief of joy. This person's over here doing this versus looking at, and then the second part is, and you just hit it, where's your audience sit relative to this? Danush and I did a session. We did this twice earlier this year, and I'll try to remember to send this over to you, because you may enjoy playing around with these things. But it was basically, let's get the baseline for what you want life to look like, and then trying to figure it, like, get that squared away and use AI to take you through that process.
Oh, interesting.
And there were a couple of interesting things. Number one, there were individuals in there. There were a handful of people who had never used ChatGPT at the time, because we were, had some prompts. But for the most part, people had used it, but the way that they had used it was productivity. So all of a sudden, they're having these more intimate conversations with AI, and it's spitting things back out to them, and they're like, holy shit. And then you start to realize you start to realize where people are relative to this tool. And sorry, I completely lost my train of thought because there was a call coming through.
All good.
So anyway, there's that. The other thing that this one was interesting. One of the packages that I put together in this program was, hey, for an additional fee, if you want to set up a session with Kevin and or Danush, right, afterwards to talk through what came up, you can do it. And there was one person who was, like, the committed skeptic, and just, as we went around and people were introducing themselves, it was just sort of like wah wah. It's like the cloud. She started talking about things, and none of this. And I'd had some short email exchanges with her. None of this really surprised me. But what did surprise me was there was this one exercise we did, which was like your perfect day. And there's some formulaic stuff that was plugged in there and how it was going to spit it back out to you. Like, you wake up and you open the doors and the wind is blowing in your face, a little bit of cheese there, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't taking what you said and extrapolating or suggesting something. It was feeding everything back to you. So as we hit this break and we're going around, she said, hey, I think Danush actually called on her and said, do you want to share? And she goes, I just feel like it's trying to sell me something. And I said, I'm curious. Tell me, why do you feel it? Well, it's saying this and this and this. I said, well, it's really kind of curious to me, your reaction to this, because it's only working with what you gave it.
Right.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the things you told it you wanted, you're now saying aren't realistic and are pie in the sky. So what part of you doesn't want the thing that another part of you says that it desires? She did not like that question.
Of course.
And I got an email afterwards asking for a full refund. And I was like,
really?
Which I was like, hey,
yeah,
and
of course, take it.
And he's like, do you want to get on a call with her? I said, I do not. I said, I want to hand her money back because she's not ready for this. And that's a blessing, because that conversation on the phone or Zoom was going to be painful.
Yeah. Right.
Really painful. And I am I'm not doing convince and convert with anything.
Yeah. There's no reason to do it. I mean, it's like what I was talking about in my post the other day. I mean, if somebody wants to work with me, then they know where to find me, right? It's like, I'm not going to follow up with you every week for 52 weeks. It's either you're in or you're not.
Yeah.
It's wild. I have a buddy.
When you come back, it's probably going to cost more.
Yeah, of course. And you'll be way behind. Like that was when I was thinking about that post that I put out on Substack the other day, which, by the way, like, it's so nice that I can cuss there and not really worry about it. But I was like, there's two kinds of people. There's the people who are terrified that the world is going to end. And there's the people that are like, you know what? We're pretty adaptable species. We'll figure shit out. And like, I'm not suggesting that you can't be a little bit of both, maybe, but AI has just really shown a spotlight on which people in my networks are those types of people who are like, this is fucked. I'm going to ignore it until I can't ignore it any longer. And I'm like, dude, if you're ignoring it until you can't ignore it any longer, you're going to be so far behind when you actually have to start paying attention to it. Like, you need to start embracing this now. But it's wild. Like, and one of my buddies, he's the chief communications officer for Geico. He's never used ChatGPT. I was like, Frank, like, what are you doing, man?
No, but I get that, because my wife runs comms for a really large organization. Danush actually came in and did some training for them, because she was talking about something one day, and I was like, I need to connect you with Danush. So I think he's going to do another thing for them in December. He may actually be here, which would be cool. So we have lunch today. I got to find out if they're doing that, because if so, I was just going to put an invite out to everybody else in the group and be like, hey, cool. Danush is going to be in town. So if you want to come, like, we'll do stuff here at the house. It's super easy. Just get a hotel room and like,
nice.
We'll come hang out for a day and whatever. So I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But the percentage of them as writers who felt like it was cheating. And now I feel like it helps me move from blinking cursor and putting ideas together, and just the amount of energy that I'm putting into that to go from 0 to 1 versus being able to do a dump. It's gotten enough of my other stuff that that I've written, and I love Claude for this, by the way.
I've just
great. Abandoned ChatGPT for it. I just exclusively use Claude, and then what it kicks back to me is 80% there, 90% there. In some cases, it's 100% there. Like for shorter stuff, it's there. It got it. Yeah. You gave me 7 variations of what it is that I would say, and they're all good notes for Substack. And if there's one that's off, maybe it needs an adjustment, or I'm just like, that's whatever. That's just not worth it. But now that energy, and it's not even like, oh my God, it saved me. Did it save time? Sure, it saved time. But now the energy that I would have put in from going from here to here is now helping me take this and make it so much better. And then the output, I mean, I'm hearing it. I'm getting the feedback I used to get from emails when I was sending them on a regular basis, that like I can now put together way more. Yeah, I can create so much more. And
Yeah.
now my struggle is like what sits outside the paywall and inside the paywall. And I'm, again, like figuring it out as I go along.
Yeah. No, I say that we no longer live in a time where writer's block is a thing. Like, even if you're starting from total scratch, you can be like, help me come up with an idea about this topic, and here's my thoughts on it. Give me something to start with, right? Like, there's no reason to say you have writer's block anymore. And on top of that, once you start getting going, like you're promoting yourself from writer to editor, essentially, right? And every single newspaper in the world has writers and editors, and they have different functions and different purposes. And to me, being the editor is actually pretty beneficial because you can just crank out so much more volume. And why wouldn't you, right? Put more stuff down. Have you tried dictating to
So I have not with Claude. I've done it a little bit with
ChatGPT?
OpenAI. Yeah. So I've
Yeah,
done a little bit with ChatGPT. I was sitting here wondering if like Siri, it was gonna trigger this guy to show up and start. So I've done it. I've done it a little bit with that with ChatGPT. I have not done it with Claude, and I need to dig in and use because I mean I'm using Claude like a knuckle dragger right now.
me
I
too.
am
It's
not.
it's definitely my second, because ChatGPT is basically my operating system. So like I store things in there, I retrieve information from there, and then, the creative piece. I actually use a tool called 2pr.io for
Yes,
content creation, but
I just got Laura Costa reached out to me and asked if I would be an ambassador for Clio. So I'm testing that out, and I'm still in the stages of getting it set up. Actually, pretty cool. I said, hey, I mean, I'm going to be over in London for like 3 days at the end of a trip to the UK for about 10. I don't know if you're around. She's like, yep. So we're going to get coffee
oh,
when I'm
nice.
there, which is pretty cool. But and I don't know if you've met her or talked to her.
She's blocked me. I've never spoken to her before. I've never commented on her content. I've never spoken to her. There must be something I say that pisses her off. Because I went to look one day and I was like, okay, cool. I have no idea.
I have a former business partner that's blocked me on every platform. When people are like, "Have you seen what she's doing now?" I'm like,
Nope.
nope. Blessing. She's like, "You got
Yeah.
blocked?" I go, "Yeah, got blocked." I guess I got blocked within like a day of us dissolving our partnership. I
Yeah,
go,
that sounds about right. Yeah.
well, it's a gift, man. It's a gift.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I don't give a shit. At the time, like, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't have gone in and looked at stuff. Like,
Yeah.
of course you would. So anyway, yeah. So and I'll just give you this preface before I mean, we're already in the middle of it, and then we'll just go. I'm looking at this like putting together pieces of content, like the longer form pieces that I do on Substack, and then just picking one or two places where I can go like, okay, we can just go deeper on this here. And then what had occurred to me was, since all these pieces, I've got 12 months of deeper topics that I've mapped out that I want to use for inside a paid community. And then I thought, it's interesting. Videos then can sit outside they can exist in both places. They can be inside and they can be outside, right? They can be in the paid thing. They can be sitting on the outside as well, but they become this bridge to pull people in and pull people in from a different point, having conversations with, like we're chatting about regarding LinkedIn. It's not so much LinkedIn versus Substack. It is to a certain degree, and it's not an or. For both of us, it's an
It's definitely an
and adjusting. So you've had a lot of success on LinkedIn. Talk a little bit about that and historically, like pre-Substack, what that looked like for you, because I'm curious to dig in on like how you were using it and how it fit in your ecosystem, and like now how you think about it with the addition of Substack.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started posting content on LinkedIn primarily intentionally in 2020. And I was on paternity leave after my daughter was born, and spent a lot of time consuming content on the platform. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make this a place where I build a voice. I didn't really spend time on other social platforms all that much. And so, but I wanted to build the connection, and then COVID hit, and then it was like, wow, like this is a lifeline, right? You're not able to have conversations with your colleagues, but there's all these people online that you can build relationships with. So that's kind of how I fell in love with LinkedIn as a platform. And back then, like, you could write a post and you could get 1 million impressions really easily because there were so few people creating content, right? I used to do polls and they would get like 6,000 votes. And so it became very easy to get excited about the platform because you're like, holy crap, I'm getting all this engagement and all this distribution. And
Oh
who
yeah,
am I, right?
I remember going back further than that with LinkedIn, and this is like 2008, 2009. The max groups you could belong to were 50. I was running webinars at that time for the job search boot camp I would run. I'd run a boot camp every single month. I would typically have 100 to 200 people sign up for it. They
Wow.
all came out of webinars that I would run. And the only place I would promote webinars were inside those groups. I would easily get 200 to 300 people a week signing up.
Wow.
I grew
That
it
is
to a
massive.
subscriber list of 300,000, not spending a dime and just using those groups. Using
Wow.
those groups and using some other PDFs and opt-ins. It was insane. It's a very different landscape now, but it's one of these where now what I see like that worked for a few years. And now I feel like things like that, when you figure them out, might work for a few months. And then there's something else. So you've got to, if you can just remain adaptive to the environment, you don't even have to be good. You've just got to be, I'm not a fan of this word. Well, I'm not a fan of this word. You just got to be resilient.
Yeah.
You just got
Yeah.
to be able to just keep going and not be emotionally attached to anything, or believing that like I figured it all out. You figured it out for now. You caught your meal for this evening, but you
Right.
still got to take care of breakfast.
That's such a great analogy.
Playing the
Yeah.
skin in the game, right?
Totally. And, I think that like that is always part of it, right? I mean, the more mature social platforms, like on Instagram, you have Adam Mosseri doing, very personal videos where he's like, here's what's changing and here's why we're doing it. And here's how you can add impacts you. And like people moan about it, but at least they're telling you. LinkedIn, they don't tell you what's going on with the algorithm necessarily. Like it's all behind this cloak of mystery, and everybody else is running around being like, who can figure it out the fastest? And how can I monetize my knowledge on the algorithm and blah, blah, blah. And now
Yeah,
it's like,
it's remarkable how many experts there are
I
who
mean,
have their insight. Which, yeah, it's
I've literally said to people, I'm like, please think critically about this type of stuff, right? There's no way that a single person whose sole job is to sell social selling and LinkedIn services can truly understand and outsmart the data science team at LinkedIn. It's just not going to happen, right? The product team doesn't do it. Like you can definitely figure out trends. You can definitely identify, like if you're analytical and you can look at the data and you crunch the data, sure. But there are so many variables that go into everything, right? Like day that you post, like how often people are logging in. What's the makeup of your network? Is your network highly engaged? Is your network not so engaged? Do you have 75% of your network that never logs into the platform? Like there's way too many variables to definitively say, I understand how this algorithm is working. You can have a pretty decent idea, but even then you're probably wrong at least 50% of the time.
well, I think the most honest thing I heard from someone was more of a way to think about the algorithm and what the algorithm is there to do, instead of like, oh my God, LinkedIn loves video and it loves this and it loves,
Yes.
right. And it was working backwards from how does LinkedIn make money? And LinkedIn sells software, right? So
Right.
is what I'm doing helping support that end game for them? Because
Yep.
they don't give a shit about me. I mean, I
Right.
wrote it in this article. Yes, I've got the top voice, the blue check, which I'm
Yep.
one of the
I didn't know there were only
data I could
7,000. That's
research
amazing.
was 7,000 out of 1.1 billion. Okay, great. I am. I'm appreciative for it. Don't
Sure.
understand how I got it. I'm old enough to know I'm not going to question it. I got it. So like, let's keep moving. But it doesn't. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's like being upgraded at a hotel.
Right.
I still don't own the room,
Right.
and it could go away tomorrow. I don't know how I got it, which means I don't really know how I could keep it or lose it. I think I'm doing all the things right. It's not mine. It's not mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight up, it's not mine. So, and all those little things, I think you can get caught up in chasing something that somehow or another serving somebody else. And if you can find alignment between those two things, that's key. But this idea that somebody out there has figured out the algorithm, I think is just
Yeah. I I always tell people that you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and you have to do your own research, and you have to build your own stuff, and you have to form your own opinions. And like, yes, is it worth it to talk to people who've spent time doing this for years so they can kind of reflect on all those learnings? Sure. Is it valuable to talk to somebody who's super passionate and really understands the platform? Yes. But to say definitively that you understand how to make things go viral without gaming the system in any way, right? Like, that's the biggest change that we've seen, right? This new 360 brew system that LinkedIn has put in place is, I think, almost a direct shot at collusion and engagement pods, because they've realized that everybody figured out the more engagement you got on a platform, on a post, the farther it went. And that was very rote and sort of rudimentary algorithmic logic that most social platforms ditched 5 years ago, but LinkedIn's about 5 years behind. So, you now have to sort of think about, okay, well, I no longer have control of that. Even if I want to try and manufacture engagement, it doesn't mean anything. I had a post last week that got 47,000 impressions on 50 comments. That would never have happened in the old days, right? In the old days, 50 comments would have got you like 1/10 of that, maybe. But there's something happening, and I did an article about it on Substack, and I talk a bit about it on LinkedIn as well, is just they are getting smarter. They're using AI to figure out what's the likelihood that this person is going to want to see this piece of content. And they're starting to do a little bit more advanced matching based on, the things that other social channels have been doing for years. And it's the natural evolution of a social platform. I think one thing that's very interesting about LinkedIn, though, is if you look at their new chief marketing officer, right? She came from Facebook for business. So she was running Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and Facebook for business. And if you go to the LinkedIn premium landing page, you now have a job option and a small business option. So what does that tell you? It tells me that LinkedIn is trying to basically become a branding platform for small businesses, which totally aligns with the fact that more people are getting into fractional consulting, more people are going into self-employment and entrepreneurship. LinkedIn can no longer just sit back and say, well, yeah, just apply for jobs. That no longer adds enough value to every single person in the world. So now they're thinking, okay, why should we let Google My Business get all of the ad spend from small businesses when we have 1.2 billion people here who have more money than all the people that are there? Why aren't we activating that for small businesses to give us money for advertising? That's what I think is happening next.
So, Substack enters for you as like a new platform. Talk about like when it came up on your radar, how you were using LinkedIn, and then just kind of let's go from there.
So I create this. I hate talking about this because I started my Substack in 2017 and I ignored it until 2025. I basically like sent out a couple of newsletters, and then I was like, I don't really want to send out the newsletter. I don't want to commit to it every week. Like I wasn't in the content creation mindset that is now second nature to me. And so I just kind of let it go dormant. And then in February of 2025, I just meandered over there because a couple people that I respect have newsletters there. And I was debating between Beehive or Substack.
Yep.
And I realized that they had built a feed and they now had video, and you could set up your podcast there, and you had direct relationships with all of your subscriber base. And like, not only that, but you know me, I'm a pretty analytical dude. So I went and looked at the analytics and I was like, holy smokes. Like they tell you how much people, which subscribers are your most engaged subscribers, right? Like for the 5-star versus 1-star based on their open rates and click-through rates and everything. That's gold, right? And Beehive.
No, it's yes. And correct me if there's anywhere else that that's doing this. To me, it's the first time that you can actually get visibility into who the lurkers are.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because that's I remember you were talking about during COVID, I remember when things started to loosen up and we started having people back over at the house, and during, beginning of 2020 and then going through to probably like early 21, definitely like mid 2020 all the way to beginning of 21, I was doing these short videos almost on a daily basis, and much of it was me just trying to figure out what was next. And I've done this a couple times. I did a podcast called Coffee or Something Stronger years ago, which was
Nice.
very clear. Like, these are the people that I go to get advice. We meet over coffee or something stronger. That's what I would always say. Like, hey,
That's so smart.
right?
I love that idea.
So like, and we were just having conversations. I was letting them talk about what they were working on. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here deconstructing, for me, like, the stuff that's coming up and trying to figure out where I'm going next. So I was doing the same thing with those videos. My point in it is that I stopped doing them. I'm watching the people who are commenting. I can see the number of views I get, which for me, it's like, whatever.
Yeah. Barely 100.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not going to say that I'm immune to like, oh my God, I got 100,000 impressions on this or this did that. But the reality is I also know those are just like, it's window dressing. Because unless that's leading to 100,000 people that I now can have more conversations with and more repetition and stay in front of, and the amount of times you need to show up and how much people need to see your message in order to get to know, like all those things, none of it matters. But where I'm going with it is this. People start coming over to the house. And because I had stopped the videos, people who I never knew watched the videos would go, why aren't you doing those videos?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you watch this? Like, yeah, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. Wow. I didn't think anybody was watching them.
75% of my business is people I've never seen or talked to before. Like they just someday inbound and they're like, hey, been following you for a year and your post the other day just kind of put me over the edge. I really want to work with you. And that's how you know, right? And all it takes is that one person to see that one post that struck them a certain way, and you have a client that is giving you thousands of dollars. Like, who cares if that got 1,000 impressions or not? I mean, it's just one of those things that I think we've been conditioned to believe is important, but it's not. And
yeah, there are a lot of
value to
fallacies
distribution
out there.
but
I mean, the idea that people need to follow you for years and years and years before they're going to make an investment. Some do, others don't.
Some don't. Yeah.
I would look at the statistical data for us with Career Attraction, where we were running ads to a webinar. People go to the webinar, they book a call with our team, and then enroll or don't enroll in the program we were running. And what was interesting is those ads, we were probably, I'd say on average, getting like 100 to 150 people a day opting in, right? And we were spending, I think about the most we ever spent was like $40,000 or $50,000 in a month on ads, but typically it sat around like 20 to 30,000, if I'm remembering all this correctly. I know that for a fact. I think the high point may have just been an anomaly. But I would look at the email marketing we would do when people would come into the funnel, and then what we would do with people who had watched, who had signed up for the webinar but hadn't enrolled. Usually like 30, 45 days later, we'd run another webinar, and it would be separate from the funnel that's out there that's running all the time. And where I'm going with this is that I would look at the data, and it was like somewhere between 80 and 85% of the people who signed up with us did so within the first 72 hours of opting in. So from don't know you to I'm going to invest $10,000 to $12,000 with you in 3 days or less, and then everything dropped precipitously.
Interesting.
Where I'm going with with running the webinar again is that what would happen is we'd schedule this out. We'd talk to the sales team. We'd have to open up more bandwidth because we've still got these ads running. But then you had this, and I actually saw somebody talk about this just today who was running ads for their first time, and they didn't take into account, what you do is you look over here and you're like, okay, if I've got these calls coming in and I know that these people booked within the first 3 days, like 80% of our sales are going to come from there. But if you take that same percentage and you just like drop it against, oh, now we're going to run another webinar 45 days later, it would get booked. Calls would get booked. The percentage of those people who would then convert were like, it was almost zero. Right.
Yeah.
And then what it's done is it's actually set you back because it's filled up your sales team with all these calls. They've expanded their bandwidth. They're taking more calls. They got to put more energy. And they've got 5 people on their calendar today. 3 came from that 45-day webinar. These other 2 came from over here. They're being treated the same. They're not the same. They're not even close to the same.
Yeah.
So stop doing that, because it was like, that's a way. We need to have a different mechanism to figure out the people who came on because they're in here, and how to get them to demonstrate that they really are serious about this, and it makes sense to book a call with them. But this is, it's one of these things, like looking at all this stuff like cold traffic versus people who've been on your email list, or somebody who follows you on Substack, or somebody who follows you on LinkedIn. They're all very, very different. And
Totally.
if you're not, and if you're going in with the same expectation, like, oh, I launched this to the people who've been on my email list. Some of these people have been here for 5 or 10 years, and I converted at a 20% rate. And then you start running cold traffic, and you're like, well, this is just going to be shooting fish in a barrel. It's not.
Yeah.
They're in a really different place.
Yeah.
And you need
The
to start.
trust, the trust is everything. The trust is everything, right?
Yeah.
And like so that's that piece, trust, going forward. Everybody's worried about the validity of what they're seeing online, the authenticity of it. Like there's AI slop everywhere. Like people are going to be craving authenticity and trust. They want to be able to trust what they see online. So LinkedIn is throwing the word trust around left and right because they want to become the trusted B2B platform for ads, for relationships, for opportunity. Great. I'm going to make sure that I'm building a presence on that platform that builds trust. It's my top of funnel awareness mechanism. It is where I've invested most of my time for the last 5 years. But then I view Substack as sort of a step further down the middle of the funnel. So I am starting to market my Substack on LinkedIn so that people can start following me there. And my whole reason for doing that is, I'm a broader creator on Substack than I am on LinkedIn, right? I have like 60,000 thoughts a day. We all do. Most of the ones that I have don't make it to LinkedIn. It's sort of more focused on what I'm there to do, how I'm there to help people, etc. But I want people to get to know me even more. Then that's where they find on Substack, because they'll get my writing once a week. They'll get notes throughout the course of the week, and the notes will be a blend of anything. It'll be whatever's on my mind. So I'm building a stronger connection with the middle of my funnel at that point. And if they start following me there or they subscribe to me there, I know that they're probably more interested in me than the people that I see on LinkedIn, because they've taken that leap into a lesser known platform that is newer, just to sort of engage with my stuff there or to receive my stuff from there. So that's why I think it's actually further down the funnel for me.
I agree, because when we were talking about this and you were talking about, top of funnel being LinkedIn, middle of funnel being Substack, I was thinking about it as well through the lens of like, why are people there to begin with, right? I recognize there are people who are coming into Substack now because I'm emailing them and letting them know that I'm there, and we've had this pre-existing relationship, and I'm not trying to be draconian about it, but I'm like, look, that's where I'm spending the bulk of my time. So if you want more of this, that's where to go. It's an easy lift. Here you go. I totally understand that creating, new behavior patterns with people is difficult. We were talking about this sort of at the beginning of the call before we hit record, but like creating those new behaviors is difficult. But what I've noticed is, and this is my own assumption, opinion, belief, is that there are a lot of people who are on LinkedIn because they feel like they have to be on LinkedIn, or they need to be on LinkedIn, or I'm supposed to be on LinkedIn. I don't know if you hear that. I hear that a lot. Like,
yeah,
I know if I talk to somebody about their business or the business they've launched or they're launching, and they talk about where, like, I know you're going to tell me I have to be on LinkedIn, to which I always respond, I'm not going to tell you have to do shit. I am going to tell you that you need to figure out where you can get the eyeballs, the audience, create an experience. That last one, I think, becomes an important differentiator here. And start building a relationship with people. Figure out who your people are, figure out your audience, and start to build a relationship with them. LinkedIn and Substack share something in common, which is there's no real cost to reach your audience.
That's right.
I think you talking about the hire for LinkedIn, it's going to shift, and okay, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Because I would tell you that until you understand what you're willing to pay to get a customer, you don't really, or a client, you don't have a business, right?
Yes.
If what you're going to do is you're going to go chase the next organic thing, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're going to go chase that, you're fucked. You are. Like, it's not sustainable, because you don't have any control. Just like the blue check, just like the top voice, whatever, you don't have any control over it. It's not just like the audience on LinkedIn, don't have any control over it. Whereas with Substack, you have people who are there because they want to be there. Most are creating or like to consume the content by people who are, I'm not going to say creator, I would say who are more creative. And the thing that's coming out more and more is LinkedIn, to your point, is becoming like, not that it's becoming, but it continues to have this B2B focus. There's still this corporate veil that exists
100%.
there, where the beliefs are supported around all this needs to be buttoned up. I mean, you look at the carousels. Carousels are death by PowerPoint, man. They are. Every single one of these things, and everybody. I shouldn't say everyone. Let me back up and clean that up.
We
I see
understand what you're saying.
a lot of behavior, right? I'm like, it's not Substack or LinkedIn. Yeah, it is. Like quietly, I'm like, like shivving it in the shower, right? For me, right? And I think we share this. For me, I am looking more at LinkedIn. Like, I've got a presence there. I've got a platform there. How can I raise your awareness around something, and then basically say, just like I would with an opt-in, like, if you want more, this is where you need to go.
Yeah. That's how I'm looking at it.
I'm not even asking you for your email. I'm just telling you, like, if this gets you excited, or this has got your interest, or this is a value to you, this is where we're going to go dig in a little bit deeper on it. And it does have, I had somebody who pushed back on me hard when they asked me about why I was there. And I said, it has a different vibe. Well, a vibe's not enough to build a business. So it's like, I didn't respond this way, but it's like, I've built and sold a couple of companies. Like, I'm where I'm at in my point in life.
Yeah.
Like, the vibe does matter, because I'm not doing that performative bullshit. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not. But particularly when I'm telling other people, you don't need to do that performative bullshit. You don't have to be on LinkedIn. You don't have to be anywhere. You do need to solve for, how are you going to get in front of your people? How are your people going to become aware of you? And I mean, you could do that offline. I've got clients who work strictly word of mouth. That's fine.
Yep.
Not going to be prescriptive about that, but you do need to get crystal clear. And oh, by the way, if corporate speak and the performance and all of that is cool with you, and you can thrive and work on that, then go hog wild on LinkedIn, because you're going to love it. If you're okay with being a little more amorphous and throwing some things out there, and occasionally I wrote a piece on Van Gogh a while back, and I had a couple of people who flat out wrote me and said, I didn't like it. And I said, okay.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And I was inviting people to look at his, separating his ear as a look at it just through a different lens, and using it more as a muse. I'm not trying to presuppose his decision-making process behind doing that. That's just foolish. But there seems like a better place, particularly when you are trying to explore what's next, to be able to go do that. And at the same time, not just throw a bunch of stuff out there like, here are my random thoughts, but start to play with things that aren't fully baked and they're not fully set, and get feedback from other people on where it's landing. And I'd even say finding a different psychographic than you're necessarily finding on LinkedIn. Demographic may or may not change, but the psychographic does.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think, like, and I have this conversation with myself all the time. I think, like, I had a friend of mine who was like, if you're trying to teach people how to leverage LinkedIn, why aren't you on Instagram talking about, like, leveraging LinkedIn? Because there's people all over Instagram who aren't on LinkedIn, and they need to move over there, or they are there, but they're not paying attention to it. Like, you should be over there spreading that message to those people. And it hit me. I was like, huh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, I haven't really done much with it, right? All these different, the whole point, I think, is that, like, there's all these different places that you can spend time online building a brand and building awareness of who you are and what you do and why you do it and how you do it. And you can build trust on many different places, right? But I think most people typically prefer one or two social platforms to most of the others. So, if you are spreading yourself on different platforms, it makes a lot of sense because you can capture a broader audience, but it's also very hard to manage multiple, right? Like, it compounds, it becomes more stressful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're truly going to show up with that same level of energy that you do when, like, you and I are looking to scroll through here and comment and leave notes. Your comment around Instagram to LinkedIn made me think about when I first started running ads for career attraction on Facebook, and then ultimately on Instagram as well. I would get people all the time that would say, well, that's ridiculous. Nobody goes to Facebook to look for a job.
Everybody has jobs and everybody looks for jobs. That's a ridiculous
I
statement.
said, well, if anything, they're going to Facebook to escape the fact that their
Yeah.
job search isn't going well. I go,
Oh man.
it's not why they went there. I was like, oh my God, really?
Doesn't need to be why, right? That's why advertising is a thing. That's why advertising
Right.
works.
So I would submit that your omnipresence can be something you can scratch that itch by running ads once you get your message dialed. And that's where, it's one of the things we found with our ad spend overall, right? Like, so let's say we're spending 10,000 ads, less than 10, about 5% of that would go towards Google, just to continue to put it there, just ad display to continue to show up. And I remember looking at, we were looking at the data on what that was triggering. And my little caveman mind went like, oh my God, we spent like $9,500 over here on Facebook last month, and we spent 500 over on Google, and all this stuff's coming through Google. Let's throw more money behind Google. Well, what I found was, even at that point when you're spending $40,000 or $50,000, Google about flattened out around $1,000 a month in spend. Like anything beyond that just
Interesting.
wasn't. I don't know if there weren't enough people who were getting pixelated on all the other side. I have no idea why, but it was one of those, more in this case is just more. But the point it did make to me was that you could start to look at these platforms a little bit differently. And it'll be interesting to see if LinkedIn goes this direction, because for a while, LinkedIn's advertising was expensive.
Oh yeah.
Even with a coaching program that was 10 grand, it was cost prohibitive to run ads there for us. So I think the number back then I had heard was, if you're selling things less than $50,000, it doesn't even make sense, right? So if they're opening that up for small businesses, that's going to
change,
drastically shift things.
Yeah.
So that could be a phenomenal opportunity. And I mean, it's something that I firmly believe in for everyone to be running some portion of it. And the people out there who are like, ads are a waste of time and you can do this all organically, you can't. I was looking at Nicholas Cole. I was reading he's launched he's writing fiction books, and he's started a new thing, just like he's done with Write with AI and the art and business of writing. And he was going through everything that he set up, kind of doing a post-mortem, I think, on October, and saying, I'm going to lean more into YouTube. And this was a particularly interesting data point for my 11-year-old who's trying to explore how to create multiple revenue streams. And he said, I'm getting ad revenue off of my videos on YouTube, but I've got about 200,000 people who are subscribers, and I get maybe $100 a month. His point was like, it's one more thing of revenue that's coming in. Like, you put it in place, you continue, like, who knows where it goes, right? And I totally subscribe to that. But one more example of like how you can use these multiple platforms, and the ad piece is going to be good for him, but like being able to retarget those people, being able to use that as part of your omnipresence, particularly if you start driving people to that, you put money behind it to make sure that people are seeing it, all the better.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that the more time I spend doing what I do, the more I realize that, I think like a lot of people view the internet and they're like, well, if you haven't set up a business on the internet yet, like there's no point doing it because it's already saturated, right? It's what we talked about at the beginning of our conversation, where we sort of have this mindset of like, wow, there's all these people that have businesses that are in my echo chamber. So I think that everybody has businesses online and there's no room for additional. I think that we are in a moment in time where, in AOL, when AOL hit, it created opportunity for like legitimate businesses to get online and put an online storefront. I think we are in the phase of evolution now where it is every individual human's ability to create an online presence that can earn revenue for them, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's a full-time thing or whether it's one that turns into the other, right? Like, you have to be thinking about how can you monetize the knowledge that you have? Where are the people who want that knowledge hanging out? And go and build a presence on those platforms, because the opportunity cost of not doing so is gigantic, right? And like you can't just continue to go through life saying, oh, I'm just going to work my jobs, and if I get laid off, I'll find something else. Like, it's insurance. It's an insurance policy. Like, AI is coming for more jobs. Let's not ignore that fact.
And if it wasn't AI, it would just be
something else.
The ever-changing evolution of the landscape we're on. So everybody can get myopic on AI, or you can just look at the evolution of things since the Industrial Revolution. And
Right.
it just continues to increase, to increase, to increase. And oh, by the way, all the technology that we layer in that's supposed to free us up to do other things, it doesn't. It just raises the expectation on output, right?
Right.
But
Right.
your point about everybody having a presence, I feel really strongly about this. And here's why. I believe that what the world needs from each and every one of us is the highest and best version of ourselves.
Totally agree.
If the highest and best version of you, and I'm talking about holistically, right? As a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a son, as a, like all those things, as a brother, as a whatever, right? All those things, and how you show up and where you share your genius and where you can have impact for other people, where your highest and best version can have an impact. That could be going to the grocery store in the morning and saying hello and smiling at somebody who's had a really shit day. It can be somebody who's coming along whose business is floundering, and you're going to help them get squared away so that they can have their impact. My point in all that is that if all those things exist, two things that you need to do is, number one, you need to create awareness, because there are people out there suffering because they don't know you exist.
Right. Yep.
That, and you need to be doing everything that supports you being the highest and best version of yourself, right? Putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, whether that is your bandwidth and how you show up for clients, all the way to how you're taking care of yourself. So all of those things, we now live in a world where you have unfettered access to anybody on the planet who can connect to the internet.
Just
right? May not be everybody, but it's
pause there. That is the golden nugget of the whole conversation. We have the opportunity to connect with anybody, anywhere in the world. We've not had that opportunity as easily before.
So if you come back to what we were talking about earlier, when you get caught up in how many impressions, how many likes, how many clients do you actually need a year in order to achieve what you want to achieve? Go back and read Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. Look at things through that lens. It will relieve so much pressure for you on what it is, who you need to connect with, what you need to build, who you need to reach, and start thinking about life that way, and thinking about creating an experience and showing up and being the highest, most version of yourself every day. And you've got all the tools and all the resources sitting in front of you to be able to do that, as long as you don't get caught up in all the noise. As you start to explore this, right?
And that, I think, is the interesting part of when you go over to Substack and you think about the vibe there, right? We talk about the vibes. You and I love the vibes there. And you see all these people there who's joined Substack as writers. They were purely newsletter writers. They're all pissed off that there's now a feed, right? They're like, oh, this is going to turn into social media, grobble, grobble, grobble. On LinkedIn, you've got all the people who have been hanging out on LinkedIn for 5 years selling their wares, complaining because LinkedIn is now starting to like tighten the distribution funnel. And so they're complaining because they're not getting as much. And that creates almost a perfect synergy between the two platforms, because, you know, they both have some semblance of, like, I think people that are great on LinkedIn are just going to crush Substack, because you're bringing mentality of building relationships and commenting and connecting with people to another platform where that hasn't really been that big of a part of that platform yet. Like, Substack is still sort of, you build a direct relationship with your subscriber base, but like the idea of comments on a note, you look at some of these accounts that have like really massive followings, and like they have a very underwhelming amount of comments on their notes. And I think that's because most Substack users are really not thinking of it as a social platform yet. But they've just raised $100 million in Series D funding. A16Z shut down their entire podcast operation from wherever else they were running it and moved it all over to Substack after investing money in them. If you're somebody who wants to skate where the puck is going, which I like to be, and I'm sure you do too, that's a massive signal, right? These companies are not investing in Substack because they think it's going to fail. Like, this is the next iteration of social media, and it brings ownership to the person creating the content. The fact that their revenue is so closely aligned to the success of their member base making money is a truly once in a lifetime opportunity so far, right? I'm sure there will be others that try and do the same thing with, you know, cryptocurrency and blockchain, et cetera. But my point is, to date, I have not seen a platform that is this focused on benefiting only when the members benefit, as opposed to trying to monetize the members for their own shareholders or pockets. And that, I think, is what truly is what makes Substack a very unique place on the internet.